Call the member for Denison.
Deputy Speaker, I move that this bill be now read a second time.
The member for Denison.
Deputy Speaker, this bill would in essence implement the recommendations of the Productivity Commission from 2010, and the bill that I have just tabled is exactly the same as the bill I introduced in November 2014, which regrettably, because of the decision of the government, I'm sure supported by the opposition, was never listed for debate. This bill is consistent with the Productivity Commission's recommendations. It would implement mandatory pre-commitment for all poker machines in Australia. It would introduce $1 maximum bets. It would introduce a $250 withdrawal limit on all ATMs and FPOS devices in poker machine venues. It would restrict jackpots on poker machines throughout the nation to a maximum of $500. It would make the maximum banknote that can be inserted into any poker machine at any one time $20. It would make the maximum credit that any poker machine could accrue $20. And also it would require that all machines sold in Australia must be capable of complying with all of the above by the 31st of December 2017, and all machines sold must comply with all of the above by 31st December 2021. Moreover, Deputy Speaker, it is quite clear that venues with more than 5 poker machines must be compliant by that date of 31 December 2021, but venues with 5 or fewer poker machines are given 2 years longer and must be compliant by the 31st of December 2023. Deputy Speaker, it would be at least an understatement to say that it is beyond time for the National Parliament to act on poker machine problem gambling. Just to remind honourable members, and through this place the broader community, of just how serious poker machine problem gambling is, how great the harm is. The Productivity Commission found in 2010 that almost 95,000 Australians have a problem, a serious problem, with poker machines, and there's no reason to think that that number of about 100,000 poker machine problem gamblers has changed much since then. Moreover, the Tasmanian government's own research shows that for every poker machine problem gambler, there are another 5 to 10 people affected, whether they be brothers and sisters, mums and dads, husbands or wives, sons or daughters, work colleagues, the business owner, friends. The bottom line is that when you tally that up, there's 1 million or more Australians who are either poker machine problem gamblers or are directly affected by someone who does have a gambling problem with poker machines. The enormity of this problem, Deputy Speaker, is also illustrated by the amount of money that's at stake. It's hard to know an exact figure, but we do know that between $10 and $12 billion are lost each year on the pokies in this country, and about 40% of that money is lost by problem gamblers. That's people who can't afford to lose that amount of money. So, in other words, $4,000 or $5,000 million is lost in this country every year by people who can't afford to lose that money. Deputy Speaker, these are real people. They have real families. They have real jobs. These are human beings. It's not just some statistic in a Productivity Commission report. It's not just some number in a newspaper article. This is about 100,000 human beings that are being deeply affected by a machine that is legal in this country and is almost encouraged by, in some jurisdictions, the way the advertising is allowed when it comes to these machines. You know, these are people who can't afford to pay their bills, can't afford to feed their children. You know that in Victoria, the second most prevalent cause of crime, second only to drugs, is problem gambling, mostly from poker machines. That we have a problem of such magnitude in this country, but yet this place has failed to act, and certainly failed to act decisively, is to our great shame. And for the life of me, Deputy Speaker, I don't know why it is so hard to get the attention of this place, to get the attention of the major political parties, when the problem is so severe. I'm delighted that the honourable member for Melbourne will be seconding this bill, and I do applaud the Greens, because the Greens are one of the very few parties that actually has taken a decisive and strong leadership position on this. And what does it say about our parliament and our and the situation with politics in this country right now, that again it's left to the crossbenchers, the minor parties and the independents, to stick up for the majority of Australians and what concerns them? And it is the majority of Australians, Deputy Speaker, because we know for a fact, through poll after poll after poll, that a clear majority of Australians want legislative reform regarding poker machines. The community knows these things hurt. The community knows that these things can kill, that the rate of suicide among problem gamblers is markedly higher than the baseline rate of people taking their own lives in this country. So why is it so hard? Well, I'll tell you why, Deputy Speaker. It's because the parties in this place are on the take. It's as simple as that. And I'll give you a few examples, Deputy Speaker. Before the last election, Clubs New South Wales and the Australian Hotels Association donated indirectly $75,000 to the re-election of Kevin Andrews, who was then the shadow spokesperson for the then opposition, coalition opposition. He was the shadow spokesperson on social services. The man who would, if he became minister as he did, became the central figure, the driving force, the architect of this government's poker machine policy. But yet people didn't seem to bat an eyelid that the industry gave him $75,000 for his re-election. Or what about in the previous parliament, when the reforms that I was pushing at the time were a big issue for the previous parliament, and the crossbench was in the balance of power? And who batted an eyelid when Crown Casino gave Katter's Australian Party $250,000 at the time? In a developing country, that would be corruption of a grand scale, and we here in Australia would be all high and mighty and sanctimonious and criticise that other country, that developing country. But it goes on in this place, and it goes on all the time. How dare Crown Casinos at that time have given the Katter's Australian Party $250,000 at the time that the member for Kennedy was in the balance of power and considering serious poker machine reform? And the Labor Party, they're no better as well. In fact, the Labor Party owns poker machines. In the ACT, the Labor Party owns the Canberra Labor Club, which has 4 venues which operate between them almost 500 poker machines. The fact that on those poker machines, gambling revenue each year, including those poker machines, gambling revenue each year is some $14 million, and those clubs give the Labor Party $500,000 a year in donations. So, in other words, none of the major parties in this place are beyond reproach. In essence, they're on the take. That with our donation laws, the industry, the poker machine industry, hands over enormous amounts of money, and they don't do it for any other reason than to buy influence in this place, and what a great investment they make. For the sake of a handful of millions of dollars of donation, their $12 billion industry is spared decisive action. And it needs to be decisive action by this place, by this parliament, by this level of government. Because regrettably, the state and territory governments can't be trusted, because they are significant financial beneficiaries of poker machines through the taxation they collect through those poker machines. Why, in Tasmania, Deputy Speaker, the poker machine regulator is in the Treasury Department, not in social services or human services or the Premier's department. It's in the Treasury, because in Tasmania, like in every other jurisdiction, poker machines are regarded first and foremost as a source of revenue. So in this day and age, when the state and territory governments have proven time and time again they can't be trusted on poker machine revenue, it's up to this place, Deputy Speaker, to pick up the 2010 report by the Productivity Commission. That's where the blueprint is. And I'm proud to say that the bill that I've tabled today and seconded by the member of Melbourne basically picks up on those recommendations and lays out the blueprint. You know what? This week, if people cared, they could get that bill through this House and through the other House, and it'd be law, and we'd go to the election figuring we've finally done something for the people of this country. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.